Bitcoin is quite easy. It's the rest of the world that you thought you understood that you have to confront that is complete and utter fiction. That's the hard part of Bitcoin. It really forces you to look at reality. We're at the very beginning of this, guys. These come along once or twice in a lifetime if you're lucky, and I've had 6 or 7 of these now. This will be the gorilla of all disruptions. I've never seen a disruption that is so destabilizing to everything else that's outside of it. When I met with the Trump administration and started helping them with Bitcoin, I was like, look, you can pretend like you can control this, but it's totally a pretend thing. We're 14%, no more, of the global market. The United States at this point has no choice here. No $2 trillion industry ever in the history of mankind has ever failed to grow. There has never been a $2 trillion. Bitcoin is worth roughly $1.8 trillion today. Remove all the other altcoins, whatever you want to do with them. No industry has ever broken after it's $2 trillion. None. It only grows. There's only ever one apex predator in any jungle. There's not 3. There's one that survives. He's the King Kong, Godzilla, right? It's Bitcoin. It was the US dollar for a while. Now it's Bitcoin.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the easiest way to show your support and help the podcast grow, bringing great content to even more listeners like you. Plus, subscribing means you'll never miss an episode. And a big shout out to StampSeed for supporting the show. Their indestructible solution is perfect for protecting your Bitcoin seed phrase. Now, let's get to the reason you're here. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Your Bitcoin Story podcast. I'm your host, Gigi, and today we're joined by a true titan of entrepreneurship, none other than Gary Cardone. Gary is a lifelong entrepreneur with a remarkable career spanning multiple industries from natural gas, power, oil, to M&A, payments, and real estate. He's the founder of Cardone Digital Ventures and a key player of Known 40. With a key eye for emerging opportunities, Gary has become a massive advocate and investor in Bitcoin, always looking at the long-term potential of this transformative asset. Today, we'll explore Gary's entrepreneurial journey and his unwavering belief in the future of Bitcoin. So sit back, relax, and get ready for another insightful episode of Your Bitcoin Story. Gary, welcome to the show.
Let's go.
How you doing? How you feeling today? I know off the record you said you're good, but to get you on the record, how are you feeling at the start of 2025?
Feel great, man. I feel like we have opened another book to another part of our history that we're getting ready to write, and we are all living under the sands as they move, man. The very foundation of history is moving under our feet right now. And normally you don't have this experience where you can actually see history being made. This is happening now at so many levels. It's really exciting.
And just to add, not just see, but be a part of that history in the making, you know, like I tell everybody, just go out and get involved because you can really shape where we're taking this, building this new world.
Yeah, most certainly. Look, I just had lunch, a really quickie with a guy he's a banker of mine. And he said, 3 years ago, dude, you told me you were going to know, you would meet and know everyone in the crypto industry within a short order. And he's like, damn, you have absolutely. And the cool thing about this is, it's not that Gary's so good. It's this industry is very, very open to receiving ideas and people. And it's not closed like other industries. I've been in 4 or 5 other industries. Man, these industries are very locked down. They're for memberships, basically. If you can afford to go to their parties and hire their consultants and do. But here, you call the CFO and IDIG. Hey, you don't know me, but I'm going to be in New York in 5 days. Could we meet? Sure, man. I'll buy you a cup of coffee. That's allowed me to meet almost everyone and supercharge my journey into Bitcoin. I've just learned so much and I've got more Bitcoin and I've got more freedom and I've got more understanding of how the real world works today. And it's been really, really fascinating for me.
No, for sure. Open source is not just in the code. Open source is in the actual community. I couldn't agree more with you, Gary. Like, what we have in this industry is unlike in any other industry. There is no like gated community. This is my intellectual property. You're not getting a sneak peek of it. It's like everybody's invited. Like, come check it out. Tell me what you think. And everybody's up for collaborations. That's why I love this space. And that's why I think we are unbeatable. Like, there is, because this is not just one or two big players shaping what's happening. Everybody's like their own node, just, vibrating, learning and giving back, learning and giving back. And, the more people that we have that join the network and get involved is just an unstoppable army, essentially, of freedom fighters. I don't like to see myself as a Bitcoin maxi. I see myself as a freedom maxi, because Bitcoin is the technology that gives you the full freedom. But yeah, enough about me. Let's go, Gary. Take us back to your early days. How did you first get exposed to Bitcoin? How did it catch your attention? And what was your initial reaction seeing Bitcoin?
I think it was 2015 or 16. Price was around 400 to 800. I think I listened to the Greek guy, Anthony.
Andreas Antonopoulos.
Yes. Thank you for saying his name. And then I saw Roger Ver, and then they started talking about, they started arguing, doing what Bitcoiners do really, really well.
The block size wars of
the
15 to 17.
The amount of things that Bitcoiners can disagree with vehemently, violently, and yet they are all really in agreement. It's the most. Anyway, I was put off by the whole thing. I was like, I won't be playing this in this circus. It's just too much high school. And if I'm really honest, that high school attitude has changed in the last few years, but we still need to get the high school and the junior high school out of this. I say to people, if you have 10 Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, 0 Bitcoin, or 1,000 Bitcoin, if you're an asshole, like, your Bitcoin's not going to fix you being an asshole. If you got lucky and you held on to your Bitcoin, it does not make you a brain surgeon. Okay, you found a window, you jumped through the window, and it was an awesome trampoline for you. But make no mistake about it, does not mean that you're a rocket scientist, right? I've a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. So I was a little put off by it, but I came back into it at $8,000 in 18, bought a couple, and I had a business. And this is really, really important for people to understand, that when you have a business, we were making about $70 million a year in the payments business. It's not like the first thing you think about is, hey, I'm making $70 million of 30% margin here. I'm going to go look for another toy to play with.
Yeah.
You keep massaging the toy that got you there. The cool thing for me was I was very uninterested in the business. I found it to be a stupid problem, a dumb problem that we were solving. It was a significant problem. $1 trillion a year, but I could have changed the problem by just making some rule changes, basically going into the internet and having all merchants and all producers and all receivers of products, they sign one terms and conditions. They don't sign 52 million different terms and conditions, different refunds, different this, different 800 numbers. See, here's an example where all of that should have been centralized. Here's a really good example where it's being fractured is not the same as being decentralized. It is highly decentralized, but it's so fractured and there's so many people making money from a problem, it never gets fixed. So when I get bored, I become a highly dangerous human being. I'm actually a danger to everyone, including myself, my family. And the boredom kind of took me into Bitcoin. And I had a large problem. And the more I started looking at Bitcoin, the more I realized, oh, wow, I wouldn't have this problem if I was doing Bitcoin. I wouldn't have this problem if I was managing. I've been building businesses since I was 27 years old. And there's always been one risk to every business I've ever gone into. It's never the fundamentals of the business. My basics are a business has to meet certain supply and demand fundamentals, or I will not play with it. If I don't understand that, I'm not going to pull the trigger or exercise the muscles I know how to exercise. And this world just kept kind of pulling me in because I was solving a problem. I think it's very, very important for people to notice something that I have noticed. I could be wrong about this observation, but I would maintain that the people that came in or come into Bitcoin either just lucked into it and had nothing else, so it grabbed their attention, or they were people like Michael Saylor and myself who started looking at life saying, why is this so hard?
Mm.
Why do I go to very unimportant meetings and the whole company's there? And then for really, really important meetings, only two of us are there.
Does it
That's
make
weird.
sense?
That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, and I started just looking at everything like, why? Every business I have ever had one issue, and it was human error. Human error, human frailty, human ego. Usually the ego word that fucks everything up, okay? Because the agendas of, you start making a bunch of money. Maybe somebody's like, hey, I like all these trophies I'm getting. And then I'm the founder. I'm like, yeah, I kind of like the money. Okay. It's the only thing I'm interested in. I don't need another plastic trophy. I want to have a crowbar. I build businesses. I grab a crowbar of money, and that crowbar leverages me into more freedom, more freedom, more freedom. I just wanted more freedom. The older I've gotten, I want to be able to do more with less energy. And quite frankly, it's a survival mechanism because I now have to do more with less energy. I have less energy.
Yeah.
And I have more energy for things that I think are actually more valuable to me. And in fact, I think they would have been more valuable to me when I was 20 years old had I learned this lesson back then. I don't say that I'm sad that I didn't learn it. Like, I am exactly where I am supposed to be. My 40 or 50 years of business has set me up so well for this event. And I'll be quiet here in a second, but a lot of people have gone, dude, you have come into this space so hot and heavy. And for me, it's like, what, you guys did all the hard work. I mean, you got it here to 11 years. All the criticizing and the gossiping and I'm going to have this chain and you're going to have this chain. Y'all got to $800 billion pretending to be children. Now the big boys are taking over, and that is a fact. And there's some people that just don't like me. Wall Street has taken over Bitcoin. Sorry, okay, you guys didn't regulate yourself. I told you for 4 years, hey, you're not regulating yourself. You're not saying FTX is a scam. That's a scam. That's a scam. There's a lot of scams that people cooperated with. But for me, I was like, wow, they got here 600, 800 billion without a marketing program. And they're arguing with each other all the time. Wow, what happens when everybody gets behind this? And I think that's the age we're into today. All the arguments that are going to happen today between Bitcoiners, they have too much Bitcoin. They don't have enough to do. They don't have a big enough mission. So they're arguing with each other. Or more likely, they had the thesis in 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, and they did not continue buying. Okay, and that is going to wreck some people's lives, mentally and spiritually. It's going to wreck them because they're going to see guys like me that will become fabulously powerful because we got into Bitcoin late, and I keep adding to my average cost. Like, there isn't anything that's going to have me stop buying Bitcoin. And the guy, once you have a thesis, Roger Ver, you don't get fucking spanked for $50 million on taxes, dude. Like, he didn't understand. I build the case that no one that built this understood what was going to happen, much less the time horizon that it's happening in. Okay. Happening right now, dude. The whole thing, the whole white paper is unraveling like this magic character out of a box you wind up, and you just wind it. All of a sudden, Bitcoin pops up, and it's not going back in the box. So it's really fascinating. We will write have case studies from the McKinseys and Harvards of the world for the next 20, 30 years over this, man. It's truly spectacular. And how many people have missed it is quite hilarious.
Well, the Peter Shifts of the world, right? Like Max Kaiser was telling Peter for like over a decade, since it was like $1, go and get some. And he was just bashing it. And he's still bashing it. And like, I don't know, at what point do you turn
Peter Schiff is an irrelevant human being. He's like Mark Cuban now, okay? They're into engagement farming.
Yeah.
People are really struggling to remain relevant.
And they're grabbing onto anything they can grab onto.
Doesn't matter how much money they have, dude. I bet Peter Schiff doesn't have money. If he did, he'd be building the businesses. He wouldn't be on, being interviewed 37 times a week. So everybody gets to make their choice, right?
Yeah.
But people that keep doubling down, sooner or later just lose all credibility.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Gary. It's interesting that kind of Wall Street always historically was the first one to get in on all the action, buy up the cheap stock, and then kind of the retail was the one coming in at the end. And with Bitcoin, it's the first time where we kind of see tables turned, like the geeky guys back like a decade ago were mining Bitcoin on their laptops and not even knowing what they're doing. And it took close to 15 years for the ETF to get approved and finally get kind of legitimized on the Wall Street trading tables. And now we see with ETFs, there's thousands of Bitcoins being purchased every single day. Doesn't matter what the price is, and it's not stopping. And it's a different game now. It's not anymore this retail speculators, degens, leveraging in their trades, going in. And to be honest, it'll be interesting to see what happens in this cycle, because historically, looking back, we've had this 4-year cycle where, we bottom out the bear, we kind of top out at the peak bull market, and then we get an 80% retracement. But that was all because of retail traders and degens. I think now, yourself included, all the big players and ETF holders, they're not going to be dumping Bitcoin anytime soon, if they're going to be dumping at all in a massive way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this circle. I don't really think we're going to get this 70-80% retraction. Not talking price points, predictions where it's going to go. As I said off the record, to me, one Bitcoin is always one Bitcoin. But I just think that the field is different now. It's not going to be like it was before. And people asking when should I get in? Like, maybe I'll wait for the next bear market. You're kind of ruining your own savings account by basically doing that. So I wanted to hear what's your thoughts on that, Gary, and what's your take on that?
Well, I think there's just a few fundamental things that are worth knowing about Bitcoin that people forget. And this is the analogy I'll use. 3.5 years ago, if you would have bought $70,000 Bitcoin, in fact, you would have paid $1 over the very top price. You'd have been that idiot like me. Hey, man, I'll take the high number, whatever the high set price is 4 years ago. Well, you would have lost, that price would have gone from 70 down to 16. Let's pretend like all you did was deploy $70,000. You bought one Bitcoin. Today, you have one Bitcoin. It's worth $96,000. Over 4 years, that's a $26,000 return, no tax, by the way, because you haven't sold it. $26,000 on a $70,000 investment. That is about 35%. Over 4 years, 35% divided by 4 is roughly, call it 9.5%, 10%.
From doing nothing.
I'm pretty okay with a 10% return every year. And by the way, I'm not even done with my return yet, because I don't think it's really so in 4 years, no human being in the history of 16 years of Bitcoin's entire history has anyone ever lost money. That's one fact. Second fact that's really, really important. No $2 trillion industry ever in the history of mankind has ever failed to grow. There has never been a $2 trillion. Bitcoin is worth roughly $1.8 trillion today. Remove all the other altcoins, whatever you want to do with them. No industry has ever broken after it's $2 trillion. None. It only grows. So you have the Mag 7. The Mag 7 are spending $50 billion each this year on cash, man, on AI. They see the future. If they don't spend the money today, a fiat, they will cease to exist. Hilarious. The idiot Carl Scheisberg, or whatever his name is in the UK, says they're going to be an AI center, a hub. I'm like, with what energy? Your wind and your sun that you block out every day. Like, you guys don't even have any. You don't have any potatoes left, much less enough energy to drive the AI world. Which, by the way, we will own the AI world because we will own energy. We will own Canada. We're going to own every resource that's within close proximity of our reach. So, look, when I get on these journeys are usually 10 and 30-year journeys because they're massive life changing. I mean, everything changes in the whole system. And it's like, for me, there's zero risk. And when people go, wow, zero. Yeah, zero. Like, big fat zero. It's literally time. All I have to do is hang. We've proven this year that home ownership is horrible.
Yeah.
It is massively risky. It is uninsurable. Homes are uninsurable. I'm going to just say it right now, okay? They are not insurable. You are not insured. You can't guarantee me you're insured. There's nobody in California that tells me that they're going to get an insurance payment for $7 million on their house. 14% of those homes will have insurance on them. The rest of them are going to go for cash.
Well, yeah, we're going to see a great example now. What happened with LA with the Great Fires, like how many houses were just wiped out, and people are kind of hoping on getting this insurance. And we'll see what insurance companies do. They always have dirty tricks up their sleeves. So it proves that real estate is not the safest asset to be storing your wealth in.
Correct. So, I think it's becoming pretty clear now that there's only ever one apex predator in any jungle. There's not three. There's one that survives. He's the King Kong, Godzilla, right? It's Bitcoin, dude. It was the US dollar for a while, and now it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin, anyone listening to this says, I'm going to bet against a 17-year-old champion who has been training for 16 years, has been put through the most exhausting set of trials any champion has ever been put through by companies that are 400 years old, politicians that are 400 years old. That might have been a good one for us. Entire industries that have attempted to attack it. The regulatory bodies have attacked it. The inside, the Roger Veers all started fighting with each other, okay? Like, you have had psychopaths attack this entity from inside and outside, and it's done nothing but do this 45% a year, every year, no matter what the hell Michael Saylor does or doesn't do, or Joe Biden does or doesn't do, or George Bush. It doesn't matter, man. Bitcoin doesn't care. It doesn't care. And now we have 450 million people with some understanding or access to Bitcoin. That is one of the largest free markets on planet Earth. Peter Schiff. Who makes up the price of gold? 5 companies. Who makes the price up Bitcoin? 450 million people. And that unit that was just sold. It's the marginal unit that's sold that establishes Bitcoin's price. Now, to your point on the volatility, my view is we have extreme volatility. This is not going to get less. It's going to get more because there are more variables now that are swinging in the wind. As the apex predator goes to the very top, these other things are going to start swinging like chimes, right? Because you got the apex predator walking through the jungle, and he's carrying a set of, Bitcoin balls on him. And everything else is flying around the jungle going, shit, man, I hope he's not hungry. Right? I mean, this is impacting. It's like a boulder going down the field, right? People, and why is it a boulder? Because it's a shining light of, hey, look at this return with less energy. It'd be like you seeing a Tesla car for the first time go 100 miles an hour in 3 seconds. You're like, wow, I didn't know cars could do that electrically. Well, watch what Bitcoin does. I'm able to take a nap now. I'm able to actually read a book. Like, I'm reading 2 books a week now. I am becoming better Okay. Because I'm not doing stupid things like going to big meetings on unimportant things. Remember when I started?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
most important decisions are one or two people, and then you have a big group meeting over nothing important. These are massive wastes of my life and my energy, my time. My ability to imagine is being sucked up in, well, let's see, what HR lady are we going to hire this year so she can tell us how woke to be,
Mm.
right? It's just such a waste. When you start looking at, oh, wow, I'm able to do more and spend less energy for an old guy. Like I've learned how to manage my energy now, man. And my
Yeah.
16-year-old, she's still overdoing her energy, right? She doesn't know how to modulate that energy and put it real focus, real control, while she looks extremely relaxed and poised.
Mm.
And Bitcoin's really providing that. It's very hard to explain to somebody until they have some Bitcoin. And this
Yeah.
is the reason you get a little Bitcoin, whether it's a tenth of a Bitcoin or a Bitcoin, and you just start comparing it to everything. It's like having a 27-year-old redhead that you marry, dude. 5'9". She loves you. She's loyal to you. She'll let you, sell off a little bit of her every now and then. She doesn't even get offended. She
Mm.
never degrades, never mutates or
She only
morphs.
gets more beautiful with the time passing.
It just gets better and better and better and low
That's a huge one.
maintenance.
That's a
It's
huge
a
one.
monster.
Compared to like other assets, for example, we mentioned like real estate, right? Like people always thought, getting an investment property and, that's my cash cow. The money comes in. It's fantastic. The price keeps increasing every year, but they don't realize that the fiat increase every year is actually decreasing because your purchasing power is getting eradicated the more the printer prints the money. And actually with the maintenance part, you have a lot of headaches. You have repairs to do. You have, tenant bullshit to deal with. You have none of that in Bitcoin. You buy your Bitcoin, you withdraw it to cold storage, and you get back the power of time, which I totally agree with you, Gary. Time is, to me personally, even more precious than Bitcoin because I have less time than there'll ever be Bitcoin in the world because time just runs out every single second. And Bitcoin actually gives you the choice to choose what you do with your time. I think you're going to like this saying, Gary, stack sats, stack time. I had a guest on a few months ago because, everybody talks about stack sats, stay humble. I agree. Let's stay humble. But stack sats, stack time is like my orange, like seeding, pilling thing that I go to, pre-coiner when they go, what's the point of Bitcoin? I said, well, do you want to buy back more time? They go, well, that's impossible. I go, well, if you're buying Bitcoin every month or so, you're buying back your time in the long term. And then when they start buying, they're like, holy shit, like this thing is actually appreciating. And I'm a living proof of that because last year, December, I resigned from my 2 fiat jobs because I was doing my duty. I was stacking sats every month for the last 3-4 years. And it came to a point where I said, I don't want to be dealing with all this bureaucracy bullshit, wasting my time on dealing. I worked in advertising and publishing and on the client relation stuff, listening to other people's problems when I can be focusing full-time energy on Bitcoin and doing my reading. I absolutely love reading and I never had the time for it. It was half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. Now I have full control of my time. I record my shows. I help people withdraw their Bitcoin to self-custody.
A quick message from our awesome partners at StampSeed. Future you is dependent on you. Don't let them down. Future you is set for life with Bitcoin, but only if you back up your seed phrase properly. No napkins, no phone notes, just StampSeed. Fireproof, waterproof, life-proof. Use BTC Story for 15% off at stampseed.com. Future you just fist bumped you. Don't mess this up. And now, let's get back to the episode.
I spend time with my daughters, which are 3 and 2 years old, like my most precious times ever. And it feels amazing, and I don't have to be making the 10, 15, $50,000 a month. That's irrelevant to me. It's about having control of my time. And that's what I try to share with everyone. It's Bitcoin gives you back that time, and which equals to freedom. As you said, Gary, you were looking for a problem like how to free yourself from all this bullshit and just time wasters around you. And especially, I'm sure you know even better than myself, as you get older, time just increases, right, Gary? Like everything just gets faster and faster and faster, and you want to be focusing on things that really matter. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. I fully resonate with everything you said, Gary.
Yeah, well, listen, and to that point, the other added benefit, which I don't think at $96,000 Bitcoin has any value in it for this particular quality. Bitcoin has about 13 different characteristics that I find extremely valuable. The most important one, I wouldn't be here otherwise, is the supply and demand fix.
Scarcity.
You cannot create more Bitcoin just by changing the price tomorrow morning. And this is a very, 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 very difficult thing for most people to understand, that you have never, I'm speaking to every person on here, including you.
Yeah.
No one listening to this, you have never seen anything that's finite. The human mind cannot possibly understand infinite. Okay. And we've lived in an infinite world. We live in a world where it's simply, what's the price of the next barrel of crude oil that I have to pull a barrel out of the ground? Is it 80? Right now it's $81. It will not go to 90. Okay. It's going to go back to 40 because there's too much of it, and there'll always be too much of it. Why? Because at 100, they're going to drill the shit out of it. And at 120, they're going to then put pressure in it, and they're going to drill it again. And if it was gold and gold went to $6,000, they'd just drill deeper and do some other fancy innovation, put some technology on it, use some bigger dynamite. Who knows what they're going to do, okay? But when the price goes up, they're able to, Mark Zuckerberg has a one-of-a-kind big super yacht for $400 million. Dude, I can have one of those too. Mm-hmm. Hey, make me one and make it 1 foot bigger. And I can probably buy it for $380 tomorrow, $380 million. People buy airplanes all the time. There's $6,000, $70,000 airplanes sold in the last 4 years. None of these people have bought Bitcoin yet. Okay. Yeah. So diamond prices, the diamond scam that was perpetuated on humanity for the last 100 years.
Thank you,
De Beers monopoly. The diamond scam is no worse than the housing scam.
Yeah.
Both of them lies. Okay. I have a house here. I paid $8.6 million. It's worth $100 million today in Bitcoin terms. 4 years later, this house is not worth $100 million, man. So when you start comparing, this is why I say this candle is like a lighthouse. Once you put some Bitcoin on your balance sheet, you start to go, wow, that's interesting. My NVIDIA stock went up 32% and Bitcoin went up 42%. Or Bitcoin had a bad day today, but NVIDIA did well. Oh, wow, the Mag 7 are really struggling. Gosh, there's 7 stocks that make up the entire stock market. There's one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay. But the cool thing, I have met so many cool people, dude. Yeah. We talk about the network effect, and Raoul Paul talks about Metcalfe's law, and Kathy Woods talk. Hey, how about community? I do not know anyone that has too many great friends. I'm not a freaking president or a billionaire on the planet that I know, or a poor person that has too many great, loyal friends. I have met some of the most valuable human beings I have ever met in my entire life, over the span of my whole life, all in one industry. I cannot believe it. I defy anyone to not come into this industry and go, wow, there's some awesome people here. That for me is worth 10, 20, 30 grand of Bitcoin, dude. And not a penny. Not seriously, not a penny is cooked into there. Not a penny. In 4 years, I have been able to get to know almost everyone in this industry. And if I don't know them, kind of certain they probably at least heard about me, right? Unbelievable leverage. If you're 19 years old and you're listening to this, do not think Gary Cardone has this unique thing that I can do. Now, I have some experience, but do not believe you can't do this, right? I mean,
for sure,
they're open to everyone. So it's you put intellectual capital. This my first base case for going into Bitcoin. I didn't really understand the price. You're not going to understand. All I understood was, hey, The price is bid at $62,000 today. That's the market, dude. It's going to trade $50 billion today. That's the market. I mean, I'm a commodities trader. That is the price of the market this moment. Now, what's it going to be in a year or 2 years? I have a good feeling I know where that's going. But if you when I saw the amount of people leaving their day jobs on Wall Street to come into this industry, I looked at the characters. I'm like, oh, wow, that guy's like me. He's like me. Rogue, 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 rogue. Never went to an HR meeting. Never wore the tie to work. Ain't ever going back in the office. Fuck that. I ain't going in Goldman's office. I'm a top performer. Right? When I saw that, I was like, wow, these people, dude, they're like me. They're cowboys. But these cowboys were walking away. I was making a lot of money, man. I walked away from a business. I'm like, you can have the fucking business. And it was generating a shitload of money. And I should have sold it for $12, man. I mean, I should have just, take it for 20, 30, 40, 50 million. It was worth $500 million. I should have just dumped it for anything and deployed it into Bitcoin. We're at the very beginning of this, guys. These come along once or twice in a lifetime if you're lucky. And I've had 6 or 7 of these now. This will be the gorilla of all disruptions. I've never seen a disruption that is so destabilizing to everything else that's outside of it.
And it's global, right? It's not just one. It's not like North America or Asia.
No, there's a real market.
It's everywhere.
There is no America. Like when I met with the Trump administration and started helping them with Bitcoin, I was like, look, you can pretend like you can control this, but it's totally a pretend thing. We're 14%, no more, of the global market. The United States at this point has no choice here. Once you really think through the strategy and the tactics that a government would take, if you think they're going to take over Canada, which I most certainly will, we will take over Canada. The question, do we pay $1 or do we pay 70 cents for it? That's about what it's worth because it's so been mismanaged. Deep, deep, deep resources, that's good for Bitcoin. Deep energy, good for Bitcoin. Greenland, let's go grab it. Grab anything, man. If it has strategic value, if it has energy, if it has resources, grab it. Grab it. We're gonna have a macro global fight between monsters. The biggest players on planet Earth are going to compete with each other, and we're going to create a different marketplace than we've ever had before. Bitcoin plays a massive role in there. It's so many different levels also, not only social. For me, it's been really wonderful. Like I have friends all over the world. Great friend in Australia. Hey, Peter, I have a question. Peter Dunworth. Lovely man. I met him 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, literally, I have so many friends today from the age of 24 to 74 that are, and they're bright, man. All these people read a lot. They have a lot of things in common, but they read. They're students of religions, many of them.
Not rent seekers.
Yeah. They're good people with good minds. And it reminds me that what is the difference between humanity and animals? And that is my ability to imagine, my ability to think and create the future in my mind is the difference between me and my dogs. My dogs are awesome, but they cannot imagine like I do. And if you're stuck in a job where you're pushing postal services and answering a telephone at the reception desk that only rings 3 times a day and you only have one guest that comes in, you're bored to death. You can't possibly do that for the rest of your life, okay? You're going to commit suicide with a stapler. That's what you're doing every day. Just your life's just becoming so unimportant. To get around vibrant people in an economy that doesn't require you to get on the treadmill is very, very fascinating. Very fascinating.
And the most exciting thing is kind of, as you mentioned, and I always tell still people, like it's still so early. People sometimes get distracted by the price and they're like, oh, I missed the boat. I'll wait for the the next Bitcoin, Bitcoin 2.0, and get a head start. But there is no Bitcoin 2.0, and you weren't too late. This is a tech of 16 years old. I like to give Bitcoin as an analogy, and you said it perfectly, Gary. As a young 16-year-old athlete, I tell him, you think of Bitcoin as a 16-year-old boy or a girl. You can imagine him or her to do everything at 16. Give it another 5, 6, 7 years. Once it crosses the 20 year, then it's really established itself, and it's a force that can be reckoned with. So, you know, the monetary system that we have today, like the fiat system, has been running for like how many, 200-300 years, and here we have a new asset class of 16 years, and in such a short span of time, it's outpaced and outweighed most fiat currencies in the world. It's top, I don't know, at the moment. It keeps switching. It's number 7, number 8 out of all the currencies in the world, like 200 plus currencies in such a short span. And if you think it's going to stop anytime soon, it definitely is. And then another point, as you mentioned, Gary, it's super hard for us, and especially the younger generations, to grasp the concept, and older generations as well, equally, of scarce asset, either in the physical or digital realm, because it never existed. As you said, gold, if we want to dig more of it, we can. Land, if we want more of it, we can always build more land and create cities on water. But Bitcoin's the only one that you can't just deploy massive amounts of equipment and you're going to be mining more. Everybody in the world mines 450 Bitcoin in this 50 epoch that we're in, and it never changes. Everything divided by 21, which famously was made famous by Knut Svanholm. Actually, I have it tattooed on my arm, right? Like infinity over 21 million.
Nice.
That's it. There's nothing more to it. And that to me is the most powerful thing. And when people
Can you mark that out and make it 17.4 since they lost so many freaking coins?
We can, we'll do, so that's why I did it up here, so we can do the denominating number going down. You know, we've got a long way to go all the way down to the risk, but
see, I keep telling people that Bitcoin's underpriced at 2 trillion because they keep assuming that there's 21 million.
21, yeah.
Like we really treat Bitcoin rough. Oh, dude.
Probably
Absolutely.
There's around even like 10, 11, right? Because like 4 to 5 million were lost in the early days of mining. And then we have Satoshi stack, which was 1 million Bitcoin on its own. That's never, ever going to move. It's like this digital monument of unfiquity. And then we have the ETFs. We have we have the MicroStrategy on its own has nearly 500,000 Bitcoin. So realistically, there's like about 10 to go because we've mined over 96% of the supply. Just for the next 120 years, we're going to be mining around just over 1 million Bitcoin for 120 years. And one fact I want to drop in there, I drop it sometimes, but to me, that's most mind-boggling. For the last 35 years, so from the year of 2105 to 2140, when the last SAT will be mined, not Bitcoin, but last Satoshi, for 35 years, the whole world will be mining a single Bitcoin. That's 35 years for a single one. And if you're telling me today 100K is a lot for an asset that the whole world will be mining for 35 years that you can buy today for 100,000, well, I don't know what's a bargain then, you know? Like, don't look what's happened yesterday, what happened 10 years ago. Focus on the now. And you don't need 100 grand to buy one. Just buy $100 worth every day, every other day. You know, just get off zero. Because I want to come to another point you mentioned, Gary, with the high net worth individuals and the ultra high net worth individuals, right? There's how many millionaires in the world? I think it's around like 60, 70 millionaires globally, right, in the world. And most of them don't own Bitcoin today. And even if they wanted, all these millionaires, if they wanted to buy one single Bitcoin tomorrow, they couldn't because there is no supply, right? If we just talked about, there's about 10 to 12 million that you could hypothetically buy at some point. Most millionaires, let alone billionaires, can't buy a single Bitcoin, which is some powerful numbers, right? When you crunch it down.
Yeah, well, look, it's an easy way to look at the market. I don't look at the price. I look at the market cap of Bitcoin. If you notice, I talk about 1.8 trillion to 2 trillion. It's bigger than NVIDIA now. I think it's surpassed NVIDIA. It will take out all 7 players. It's already bigger than Apple, I believe.
Yeah. And silver as well. And it's bigger than silver. All the silver in the world.
Yeah, well, that would be expected, but it's going to end up being bigger than the Mag 7, and when it's able to take out all of those, it will then be the size of gold. Funny that, huh? These numbers are really close 14 to 18 trillion in the Mag 7. You know, you guys sit there and look at NVIDIA and go, wow, NVIDIA is worth 3 trillion or 2 trillion, and that's what Bitcoin's value is. What is NVIDIA? NVIDIA is a bunch of forward contracts. The equities market, the stock market, places a price on NVIDIA at $2 trillion, assuming the future plays out. Bitcoin's price is based on today's price. It has no future value whatsoever. Literally, it's, there's 21 million coins and the price is $96,000 today, and that's what it is. Therefore, it's a $2 trillion industry. And it has no value for the community value that I just spoke about. I literally wouldn't know any of these people if I would have stayed in the oil and gas business. I would not be invited to the inauguration by President Trump. I would not be invited to the Bitcoin inauguration party, which is probably the best party of the year. I would not know David Sachs. I would not have met Vivek Ramaswamy. I would not have met several congresswomen. I would not have met some of the most interesting business people I've ever met in my bloody life. I would not have met Michael Saylor. I would not have gotten my brother into switching from his real estate only to Bitcoin, real estate play. Gosh, man, so for those that look at price, I wouldn't do this for price. I would do this for protection. Like I think that is a way to look at this is, hey, what if you're wrong? Look, I read an article yesterday. They're already starting to talk about changing the bond equity portfolio from 60-40 to 40-60, meaning, hey, you need more equities. They're not confronting. They don't want to say, hey, actually the bond's a bad trade. That's going to probably move to Bitcoin. Now, my view is that none of these other industries, there's 11 other industries, none of these assets have to lose for Bitcoin to win. Not a penny needs to flow from bonds. Not a penny needs to flow from equities. Not a penny needs to flow from real estate. Just the distributions alone from real estate, private equity, dividends could fuel $100 trillion Bitcoin quite easily. Just normal day-to-day, hey, I have new money. There's $70 trillion that's getting ready to be released by boomers to their children, man. Like if I live another 20 or 30 years, do you know how wealthy my children are going to be? They're going to be stupid. I went to bed last night at 2:30 going, damn, what are they going to do with all that damn money? Like it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Like what happens to you when you're 30 years old and somebody drops 1,000 Bitcoin on you and it's worth $13 million? That's a level of responsibility. Now the 70 trillion, it doesn't even include my money. The 70 trillion sitting in bonds, art, ridiculously expensive homes, boats, airplanes. These children aren't going to keep any of this shit, dude. They don't want any of it. It's smelly. It's been around a long time. It's part of yesteryear. They don't care. I'm not leaving my kids with any, hey, by the way, take care of this ranch and take care of this house. Dude, go get on with your life, dude. My lawyer will be, Mia, your dad told me to sell everything except Bitcoin. I'm selling everything and it's all going into Bitcoin. You like it? You don't like it? It's your problem. I don't want them to have a bunch of problems, right? And we leave our children tons of problems, dude. Like 96% of the people die in this country. They can't afford their own burial. That will never happen to me, man. That is irresponsible, okay? You don't do that to your kids. Wow, dad couldn't even take care of his own shit. Now I'm having to clean this mess up again. So I'm a man. I want to go out gracefully. I want to live gracefully. I want to be able to do this to anyone that tells me I have to do something and break my ethics. Like that is very powerful. Okay. And for me, freedom for me is defined two ways and they're connected by a comma. The right for me to say absolutely yes to anything I want. Oh, I'm going to the inauguration. Okay. I'm going to rent an airplane. I don't want to get touched by TSA. Some people will look at that and go, wow, Gary's bragging. Hey, like Make a list of things that you would like in your life, never have to deal with. It's okay. It's okay for me to go, hey, you guys touched me one time on United and you mess with me. I ain't ever going to do this again. I don't need to learn twice that you're an asshole, right? So for me to be able to say yes to anything, and then also to be able to say no to anything and to anyone. I mean, a serious, hey, fuck off. And guys, I don't mean to be like aggressive or angry or violent, but there are people that we need to say no to.
100%.
No, and stop it. And by the way, if you fuck with me, I will sue you into oblivion, just like my brother just did to John Ledger at T-Mobile. You know, you can't just walk around defaming anybody anymore. Shit's not going to fly, okay? Like we have to start behaving and having consequences. And I think the legacy world is beginning to have a consequence. Their money is failing. Money and politicians are failing you. If they're not failing, you should stay in the system, okay? If you don't know it's failing you, I don't know what drug you're on, but eggs cost 50 cents each, okay, for organic eggs. $4 for a gallon of milk. Why would I know that? I shouldn't be impacted by groceries at all, okay? But I am, because I'm an empathetic human being. I look at a price, I'm like, wow, $8 for some eggs, dude.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that I'm like care a lot about all you guys. I'm not Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Perfect. But I look around and go, wow, if my secretary has to pay $12 for freaking eggs, dude, like, is she going to start to be a problem to me? Is my community going to start to get an illness because everybody's having to work a lot harder just to work around me? They become part of my problem. My community is like, you look at these people in LA, you know, the great tragedy. They didn't have any friends, dude. Ain't a friend among them. Hey man, can I come stay at your house? There is no community there. None, zero community. I remember living up there. I lived up in the hills. It's going to probably fry today. 1 Doheny sold that house to Russell Simmons for, I think, $5.5 million. Paid $2 million on it. Couldn't wait to get out of damn town. I'd throw a poker game, and who was it? Sky Dayton, I think. Shows up 2 hours late. 2 hours late. No apologies. This was common behavior in LA. You don't show up 2 hours late in Texas. You show up with a bottle of whiskey, some cigars, a cake, and you show up on time. And then you help clean up. These people show up like, hey, aren't you glad I'm here? Like, you guys are assholes. These guys have lost their Bitcoin. They stored them in the house. They didn't think about what they were doing. They have no one to call and talk to. I think this community thing is very, very, very important. And we're a world that has no community. We have no religion. We have no church. We have no common theme. And Bitcoin's auditability, its transparency, it should be our moniker for the next decade. We want transparency. We want open source. You guys can do it however you want, but as long as it's transparent and you're not hiding shit from us, you can have super monopolies. The government can do it all. I don't really care how it gets worked out as long as there is transparency.
Yeah.
That solves everything. And Bitcoin is beautiful that way, right? It's,
for sure.
Again, it's setting the bar. Once you have that sterling standard, everyone now is going to look, oh, wow, shit. I mean, can you imagine being a real estate guy and looking at my brother going, wow, you're going to do 100 of these, 10 of these units? I told him to do 12. But if you're another real estate guy, you're like, I have to follow that process. I'm going to get clocked. I mean, the returns on his apartment deals are going to go from 6% yields to probably 18. He's going to make more fees. Which is unheard of
in that industry.
Oh my God, man. He's going to make more fees. Oh, and then he's going to figure out that he's able to borrow and refinance all the property he bought with Bitcoin. He'll be able to borrow the shit out of money, cheaper than his competitor. Most certainly. He doesn't know that yet, but I told him, I'm like, bro, you wait 3 years, you will refinance all of this at near zero. which
Talking
is
about your brother, when did he sort of start looking deeper into Bitcoin? I presume it's not that long ago, right?
2 months ago.
Wow. So
Yeah,
he's
that took.
fresh on the block.
Oh, he's a total virgin. He had 60 or 70 Bitcoin from somebody gave him some Bitcoin in exchange for a service. He never sold it until he bought some. And I used to tease him. I'm like, bro, you got to go out and spend some new money. Can't get a gift sent to you. In order to be Bitcoin, you got to go buy some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so he's been doing that. And then I knew he was starting to get in the right position. I spent probably the last 2.5 years irritating quite a few people online about Bitcoin, but my whole goal was to try to bridge legacy people to this new world. And it's simply about communication. It's not really that difficult, but the Bitcoin people get a little weird sometimes. They get a little, shall we say, religious. This is my big problem with religion is, oh, I'm right and you're wrong, and this is the only way to do it. And if you don't say three Our Fathers and do the beneflact and do blah, blah, then you're not a good, Christian. Hey, Gary, if you have any money on Coinbase or you cooperate with any Doge coins or you're an enemy of the state. And I'm like, what the fuck are y'all talking about, man? Okay. Like I'm in Bitcoin. Don't tell me that I have to walk around with 1,000 Bitcoin in my wallet with a free seed phrase. Okay. People like me don't work like that. It's not, you don't understand. You're actually harming the pitch here. I mean, I'm on a space the other night. Guy says, hey, what should I do? I said, you should drop the damn telephone and go buy a Bitcoin. Man up, son, right now. Go buy a Bitcoin. Someone that's been around for 14 years says, hey, yeah, before you do that, the guy was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. The guy goes into cold storage. I'm like, bro, the guy was going to smash, buy some Bitcoin on Coinbase. Let him get in the door before you start complicating. You just introduced another variable to him. He's like, how should I do this? Like, give the guy a sniff, okay? Learn from the drug dealers, man. First hit's cheap. First hit's free. Get a little bit in your system. You know they're going to win. Bro, can you hang on for 4 years? If you can hang on for 4 years, buy as much as you damn can. Right? That's all you got to do. And then they start reading, and then they start studying, and then you and I, and we get the glow, the afterglow of Bitcoin, right? Because you learn, right? Like, can't possibly know everything from the get-go.
Of course.
Bitcoin is quite easy. It's the rest of the world that you thought you understood that you have to confront that is complete and utter fiction. That's the hard part of Bitcoin. It really forces you
to rewire your brain and your belief system about everything.
To look at reality. I think in reality, looking at reality, see these guys behind me? All these people are real to me. I've seen all these characters. Now you may look at them and go, oh, they look goofy, but everyone's different, right? And we all have a ton of baggage we carry around, like our understanding. But getting into Bitcoin, I became a better baseball player when I joined a team. Gosh, isn't that funny? I didn't become stronger because I watched baseball. No, I joined a team. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's something to being a part of something. And we're so early, man, to your point. We are so early on this journey. If you think about it in the right time frames.
For sure. Sometimes people in the space, they zoom in too much. They kind of look at everything like a 1 minute candle. They're like, oh, well, things are not here tomorrow. Like things are not working out, but people should zoom out and look at the macro and look at the big picture. Look at the chart as a 12-month candlestick, not a 1 minute candlestick. As you said, it's a one-way direction. So don't focus on the price action. Focus on you being a better human. I think, I totally agree with you, Gary, on the community part. Like Bitcoin would be nothing without the community, right? Because it's at the end of the day, Bitcoin It's just mathematical. It's a protocol. It's numbers in a system. But the people are the ones that make Bitcoin what it is. Like we are the Bitcoin, like the living and breathing souls of it. I highly urge people to go to Bitcoin conferences, Bitcoin only conferences, not crypto and none of these DeFi and MEFI, blabbers and noise, but like a pure Bitcoin only conference. Like Bitcoin Magazine does a fantastic job across the US and the rest of the world. But there's a lot of other ones like BTC Prague and Bitcoin Baltic Honey Badger. And you just get to meet the people, and there's no need for introduction. You go straight to your kind of in a vacuum, like, and the people that you meet, you can speak to Adam back, you can speak to anyone. There's no like line, there's no security guards, there's no protocol, there's no special access. It's just the fact that like you have all the access at your fingertips, but you need to do the job. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to bring you and make that introduction to you. So, to me, it's the most fascinating place to get involved in right now. I would argue it's the best time ever, because if you would have gotten the space some 6, 7, 8 years ago, especially when the block wars were going, and when you first heard about Bitcoin in the 2015 to 17, when there was a lot of, as you said, you did the perfect analogy, high school drama. We had these boys over here, those boys over there, the small blockers, the big blockers, and just bashing and not coming up with any solution. And it's just like, fuck this mess. Like, I don't want to do nothing with that. Back then, imagine starting a serious Bitcoin business. Nobody would take you serious because people would be like, look what the devs are doing. Look what everybody's doing. It's just a mess. But today, with everything that's happening, and not just the ETFs, but the nation states, what Bukele started, and I have a big feeling that in the coming months and the coming years, a lot of countries are going to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and some of them are even going to make it legal tender. Now there's no way of turning back. Like, now is the time to get involved. Everybody listening, if you have some ideas and you're not sure about it, should I do something or what should I do? Just go out, meet the community at these Bitcoin only conferences, and you just might meet the partner to start your own venture, or you might find a company or some project that needs your help, and you will do something that you love. Like, the most important thing is doing something that you love. My father always told me, son, do something that you love and you never work a day in your life. And it took me about 15, 18 years to realize what those words meant. But it's beautiful. After it clicked and after I found Bitcoin, I was like, now I see what the big man was telling me. Find something that you love and you never work a day in your life. So, and I think anyone can apply, especially the young generations, the Gen Zs, the 18, 19-year-old guys that are fresh out of university and pre-university, out of high school. Forget this whole bullshit dream of going to and you got to go to college to do your 4-year degree and your master's and your MBA and your PhD and whatever alphabetical order degree you want to get. Go out, grind, find something that you like, apply Bitcoin to it, and there's nothing better you could do. What'd you say, Gary?
Totally agree. Totally agree. My 17-year-old is getting ready to finish high school, and she wants to be a vet. She's wanted to be a vet her whole life, and I'm happy for her, but I really have not wanted either one of my children to go through the school system.
Yeah.
And she came to me the other night. Sadly, she lives in a broken home, a divorced family, but she said, "Hey, Mom thinks it might be a good idea for me to take off a year, not go, because it's like 8 years to become a vet. It's worse than a doctor because the animals can't say anything. They got to do every animal."
Okay.
Anyway, but she's finally said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Australia for a year and a half. I'm going to take it's called a gap year. I think it's a European thing.
I'm familiar with it.
And I'm going to go work for somebody." I'm like, "Hey, me and your mom don't agree on a lot of things, but I would most certainly do that." At 17, 18, go work in Australia for somebody that really become an apprentice, just like Michelangelo did, and sweep up the shit, learn the basics. So many people can, let me go to page 332 and chat GBT this. So I'm really excited that she's going to take that journey instead of just sticking her head in a book. Look, on the Bitcoin thing, I think if you're on the sidelines and you've been watching this for some time, you really should now ask yourself, hey, what is my problem? Because if you've been looking at this for a year or two and you haven't pulled the trigger, the risk adjusted. People, professional investors like myself, I've been doing this literally since I was 27, just probably because nobody would hire me. Nobody logical would hire me. Well, the HR department won't hire me. And I had to learn something. As soon as my businesses get to a level where I need HR, I need to start looking for the exit. Because I've yet to see anybody in HR actually, oh, dude, it's a red light, bureaucracy incoming, like a freaking nuclear missile going to spank you up the butt. Where was I headed here? But if you're on the sidelines and you're still fighting this, it would really be worth like, hey, ask yourself, what part of this don't you understand? Because you're getting ready to get left behind in a substantial way. This is a no turn the corner moment. Okay. I mean, people could have passed at 26, 38. I was buying the shit out of this stuff at 28, 32, 37, 40, 42, and I did it publicly, selling everything I could possibly sell. And by risk adjusted, I mean the risk you are taking today at 96,000, you have to think about stuff like this, is cheaper in risk terms than when it was $30 or $300 or $3,000 or $30,000. Okay. There was not a Donald Trump in office when it was 30. There was not a Elon Musk. There was not a David Sachs. There was not a Blackstone. There was not a Van Eck. There was not an Arc Innovation. Like, dude, we have made a lot of progress. We got rid of a bunch of criminals that I think were actually situated in this industry so that the U.S. government could take over. But we're here now. This is prime time, dude. The 16-year-old has gone into the Olympics. He has not failed at any test. He is getting ready to compete with the greatest champions in the NFL, the NBA, and wherever. Name a sport. He's going to compete.
Gold everywhere, no pun intended.
And by the way, he has been chewing pure freaking protein for 16 years. He is the most disciplined, anti-fragile, no support or help from the government. His muscles are intensely triggered up and ready. Google, Visa, MasterCard have all been cheating. Hey, Congressman, give me a little help. Let's turn this guy on. Hey, let's raise our fees. Fuck, we're a monopoly. Who cares? The regulator, let me go pay Elizabeth Warren another $100 million, okay? This is a scam city. Scam city. You have one trade, dude. I get to buy into organized crime. I get to buy into clean organized crime that basically is my extortion party against the freaking old mafia, the RICO, the racketeering and organized crime that goes on in our country and on the world. It is disgusting that we treat and teach free markets when we are so far from free markets. It couldn't be for, we haven't had a free market in 20 plus years since Google, Amazon, Visa, and MasterCard, disgusting monopolists, total scum, charging $7 trillion in fees a year. Guess who doesn't pay those, dude? Me, not one penny. I don't have a Visa card. I don't have a MasterCard. Fuck them. So the $7 trillion in fees don't even get charged against the rich. Every year, I call my bank up and go, hey, all those fees, wipe every one of them, dude. Every year, dude. January, I'll be making the call here next couple of days. Hey, wipe all the fees for 2024. You know what they do? Magically, man. $8,000 in fees. $12 overdraft, this fee. I ain't paying those, dude. I'll move every penny from the bank. But you have to pay them. That's uncool, man.
No.
That is not cool, okay? I shouldn't have that advantage. I don't want the advantage. I want everybody to be treated equally.
And that's what you get in Bitcoin, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're
Michael
Saylor.
Makes for a better world, man.
Correct. Well, to fix the world, I guess we need to fix the money, and how we fix the money.
First off, we need to fix this thing. Like this, I could have 1,000. Dude, I know assholes that have 1,000 Bitcoin. They're still assholes. Okay. They're not going to change. They're harmed human beings.
But the Bitcoin fixes this as well. Do you not agree, Gary? In a sense of people that actually are invested where they learn more about it, not just buying and holding.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you have 10,000 Bitcoin or 100,000 Bitcoin and you never read a book about it.
I think if you've been jealous and insecure since you were 16, and you never grew up, you're still going to be insecure in 16. In fact, the money and the Bitcoin may actually make you more obnoxious.
Maybe.
So look, the older I get, the more I see, and the more I just like, wow. I for sure am not perfect. There's not a perfect cell in my body.
Well, nobody is. So don't worry.
But I do think that you know, the point about, hey, I want to be free, and freedom means I can say no and yes.
Yeah.
Freedom also has a responsibility with it for me to go, hey, dude, you're behaving poorly. Like really poorly, okay? And if I need to do it in public, maybe sometimes you need to do it in public. Clearly, they were never told that in high school.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have behaved the way I see people behave, my mother beat the shit out of me and my brother on a regular basis, okay? I remember having whelps on my neck from church, dude, that like lasted a week. Pull your hair, slap you. I deserved every one of them, dude. I was naughty. I was, you know, I was trying to push all the envelope, all the boundaries. So the cool thing about Bitcoin is that nobody can control it. I love that. Michael Saylor's being as transparent as any public company's ever been. The other public companies, Visa, MasterCard, Amazon, Netflix, all you boys, if you guys just sit down on a podcast on a weekly basis and tell us your business plan, you can stop doing your quarterly meetings, right? You won't do that. See, the public companies that are putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they're behaving differently than the public companies, which is quite interesting. So I think everything begins to get measured against Bitcoin.
100%. And everything measured against Bitcoin loses over time. So you better get, you know, saving in Bitcoin so that your purchasing power forever increases while everything decreases, you know, priced against Bitcoin. Because once again, going back to the scarcity part, no matter how good your product is or service, there's unlimited resources of it, and you're pricing it against a scarce thing. I mean, I like to think about the Austrian economists, you know, back in the day, the Mises and you know, all these guys that wrote about the perfect free market. I'm like, I would love to see them today live and see Bitcoin around. Like, I think they would be the happiest guys in the world, because like what they were describing and kind of what they were looking for was just kind of like a dream of maybe one day, and here it is today. And you know, it goes even further back than that. I believe it was Henry Ford that over 100 years ago said, you know, like if you know, the way we beat the money problem is bringing in a currency that's powered by energy, and that is Bitcoin today. You know, people don't realize. People like to take the stance on, oh, Bitcoin mining is, you know, using up and wasting so much, you know, energy and electricity, but they don't realize that that electricity is getting transformed into Bitcoin, which you can store all that energy literally in your palm. And it's never been possible before. And I want to hear kind of one last topic I wanted to run past you, guys, because you have experience in those industries of oil and gas. What's your take on kind of this transformative power of Bitcoin mining and kind of converting all that energy into the digital currency, since you have a different perspective, I guess, than the traditional media, which is bashing the whole mining industry?
Well, the mining business is a horrible business, first off. It is.
We're talking about Bitcoin mining or traditional mining, or both?
Mining, farming is a horrible place to be in the in the value chain. See, that's an interesting question. Like, hey, it doesn't matter. You're fucking mining and you're farming. Show me a story where the farmer's making corn. Now, this is a good analogy for people that don't understand Bitcoin. Imagine you're a farmer and your cost to produce a head of corn is $1. And this corn stores forever without any insurance. It never goes bad. You don't have those silos. It can't burn. Okay, let's just play a game. that Gary Cardone is going to I have a secret formula and your corn never gets old. You're not going to sell your corn on the day of a 60-cent market. You're going to wait till that corn is ready to be sold at a profit. Now, the problem with the farmer is he doesn't have anything but land, and that land needs fertilizers, it needs mowing, it needs tilling, it needs water, it needs sunshine, it needs more tilling and more cleaning, and then it needs to be scrubbed and changed over a different agriculture the following year. Producer of mining of Bitcoin has one thing, two things, three things less than the bloody farmer. He's got to go buy the energy, he's got to go buy the land, and he's got to go find the capital. That's a hard business.
And the equipment, which is lacking.
And you and I can buy a $96,000 Bitcoin. Why I can buy 96,000 Bitcoin, stick it in my bank, and it's sitting there. Tomorrow morning I get to buy $96,000 more. And I don't have the capital cost. By the way, I do not have machinery that goes bad every 3 years. In the energy business, the machinery lasts 15. Now we're entering the mining business. Oh, that shit lasts 3 years. Oh my God, man, just buy Bitcoin. This is Michael Saylor's epiphany. It was so clear. Producers don't make money. They take all the risk and make the least return. That's true of ExxonMobil, guys. Now where this game gets put on steroids, and I have a very deep energy background. Like it really gives me all the fundamentals I need. I spent 20 to 25 years there. The oil companies will not be competitive with Bitcoin. And this middle of the transmission line, what mining is doing right now, that won't continue either. This will go back to source. It will be mined by sovereigns, and that will be the only people that make money. If your cost to input on a mining facility is more than zero, you will lose. You will get crushed into pieces very quickly. The hope now is Michael was able to create this monster lending flywheel, financial hub, digital derivative hub. I think it's a very, very, very interesting play. If you're going to buy a miner, you might as well just go buy MicroStrategy. If that's your play. Now, I own some miners. I think they've been a mistake. I've made 400%, but they've still been a mistake. I should have bought MicroStrategy, or I should have bought Bitcoin. It has too much up and down risk. I cannot explain to you their capital base. I can't explain what their cost of money is. Now they're all 5 months ago when Saylor started being able to borrow money at zero. I was like, hey, every miner has to follow this suit or they are out of business. Done. Toast. See you later. Goodbye. Okay. But they've all followed that strategy. If they don't continue that strategy, they will die. This will all be about a game of cost of capital. Look, Exxon doesn't need the miners. The miners need Exxon. Okay. But it's going to bypass the producers. This is going to go straight to nukes. We have 23% of the energy production on this planet is trapped. It could be 50%, could be trapped, not accessing the market. If it is accessing the market, you're paying Columbia transmission line $1.50 to get it to Henry Hub. Most certainly every sovereign on this planet will mine Bitcoin because their cost is zero. Their balance sheet is zero. They're already carrying tons of shit on their balance sheet, and the land is zero. Any country that can produce its own money will most certainly produce Bitcoin because they can mine fiat and then turn it into crypto. I mean, quite frankly, what you should do is just go buy the Bitcoin if you're sovereign. This is what Donald Trump will do.
Yeah.
He'll do it because he has guys like me sitting there going, don't even fucking worry about any equipment, sir. Let's just buy the shit out of the Bitcoin. Okay. Well, and then we can leverage anyone we want, including our own internal enemies. We can leverage them into the ground because it's going to be this guiding light, this transparency that everything else will get measured to. So the energy complex is really fascinating. I think we need to take care of our energy producers because without energy, we don't really have a lot of AI, and we have this is the United States to mess up now. And I'm very like, things have come together. 5 months ago, we weren't talking about Donald Trump, much less the Federal Reserve, much less Bitcoin, 200,000 Bitcoin. You don't want to miss this part of the journey. There are certain times when it just, everything turns on.
Yeah, it clicks.
You know, there was a moment when Las Vegas, all the doors were open, the lights went on, and that was probably the best time to invest in Las Vegas. Because you knew, okay, money's coming now. It wasn't the early stage, but why would you want to be on early stage? That was 5 years of building stuff, people dying, you know, having all the capital going in it. Once the doors are open, Bitcoin's open for business, man, around the world. So fade it at your risk. We do go through these evolutionary events once every 100 to 500 years. I'm going to maintain we are all going through one right this second. It's not happening tomorrow. It's literally happening right now. If you're not planned and you're not planning right now for what's getting ready to take place in the next 3 to 4 years, I think you get left behind, man. Way behind. Okay. The bell curve is going to be the bell curve. Super wealth, poor, right? Super wealth, poor. Super wealth, poor. It's going to always be the bell curve. It's going to be 80-20. It's going to be 10% super rich, 10% super poor. Nothing's going to change there. People make these decisions. They do make the decisions where you're making a decision where you're going to be on the seesaw when it adjusts. If this seesaw does this, I want to make sure I'm on this side of the
right side.
I want to be over here, dude. I don't want to be down here, okay? This is where all the shit gets flushed down the commode. Probably don't want to be there. I just want to hang around the lid, right? I know these are aggressive, maybe ugly, smelly analogies, but once it's like this, your children have no chance. Okay, the decision you're making right now is going to put my children are going to remain right here. That's my job, man. Somebody told me that once. He said, dude, your answer for why you're in Bitcoin was like, dude, I'm in the top 1%. I have all the intentions on planet Earth to stay there. Like, why would I want to be here? I've worked my whole life to get here. I've done something my father couldn't accomplish. My sisters couldn't accomplish. So I'm going to fight to stay here for sure. And I have an obligation to fight for my children. Because what's getting ready to hit them and all their punk friends who have poor educations, they're just not going to be ready. A whole generation of people aren't going to be ready.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to add to that, when people tell me, well, but it's risky getting into Bitcoin, I tell them it's more risky not getting into Bitcoin than being in Bitcoin. You basically, by being in Bitcoin, as you said, like the risk essentially goes to zero. You are kind of defending. I love the analogy that you said, kind of Bitcoin is your defender from the whole clown world that we're living in, because everything is just, not making any sense, and it's getting worse and worse by the years. If it's not clicking, if you listen to this episode right now and you're still on the sidelines of should I not, definitely book yourself in with a doctor and get that head checked out, because I mean, it's illogical not to go and take the leap of faith and get some, because I mean, I don't know what other persuasion you need, and at the end of the day, Bitcoin doesn't need you, you need the Bitcoin, right? And you're not going to change Bitcoin.
Doesn't give a fuck.
Correct. Doesn't matter who you are.
It doesn't care if my daughters are in this shit or not. They're either going to respect it, or then if you disrespect Bitcoin, it will leave you, just like a great woman should. All these people, and I've got to bounce here, but all these people that lost 3 or 4 million coins, there's one reason for losing. Y'all did not understand the value of what you had. You mispriced Bitcoin. No one is losing Bitcoin at 70 grand. Unless you got talked into the whole, hey, self-custody wallet, all my Bitcoin, all one location. That is fucking stupid. I got to just say,
maybe you deserve to lose it.
Everyone, okay? You don't hold everything in one location. Like self-custody thing has cost so many people so much money. For instance, I don't have a concealed carry weapon license, right? I've been around guns my whole life. The reason I do not have a concealed weapon license is because I feel like I have a greater responsibility. One, if I have the damn license, I'm going to be required to carry. Otherwise, why did I get the damn concealed carry? Do I want to carry a weapon every day with me, man? Oh, every day? So do I want to carry 1,000 Bitcoin around and worry about my seed phrase every day? Oh, I'm going to carry a little electronic thing across the border with 1,000 Bitcoin on it? Come on, man. This is not the way super rich people, in fact, this is not the way risk managers manage the risk. So I get upset about it because I know I appreciate the ethos of, hey, self-custody, own your control, freedom. Yes, no, I got that, man. But we got people that have lost 100, 200, 500 Bitcoin because they did something that they were told never to do. Never do business with one bank. Okay, don't do business with one ledger, man. Okay, you don't store everything in one place. I mean, I have 600 weapons. I do not carry 600 weapons in my car when I go to the grocery store. Like, I'm not taking them on a holiday either, right? I might carry one. I got $10,000 in my pocket right now. I don't carry $1 million in cash around. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's just been, I think it's been a little, anyway, it's sad to me that people are losing their Bitcoin. This is not necessary. And as it gets priced properly, people are going to start to treat this, oh, wow, maybe I should insure. Somebody was arguing the other day that 30 bips was too much to insure Bitcoin. And I'm like, if you're a guy that lost 3,000 Bitcoin at $300, would it have been worth insuring it at 1% or 3%? The whole audience is like, yeah, that seems like a really high fee. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about, dude? You would still have your 3,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
At $18, and you would have paid 1% a year. I bet everybody that lost it in the fire, they'd pay 10% right now, or 20, right? So we just need to we don't need to lose our minds over this, right?
Yeah.
We need to
think rational.
We need to transition. Bitcoin's going to be a bridge. It's a bridge. It's a launching pad for a new super rocket. It's literally a bridge to the future, and other people don't have to lose for us to win. I think that's the beauty of Bitcoin. It's not a sum zero game. It's just not. It's you and I can both win. My observation about MicroStrategy and Bitcoin is the only people in the entire food chain that's getting hurt, either on MicroStrategy or Bitcoin, the only people, including the banks, are the people that are on the side. Literally, no one's getting hurt. Only the people on the sidelines. I find that amazing, man. I ain't going to be on the sidelines on that trade.
No. You don't want to be sitting side court seats. You want to be the player on the court doing your part.
Totally.
And
the
enjoying the game.
Coach, pass me ball. Thank you.
Amazing.
Hey, 3 points.
Amazing. Gary, I think to wrap it around, I know you need to run. I also need to seal up this episode, but I think you've put it very nicely. Just kind of my feedback on the self-custody. I totally agree. I'm of the person and I am helping people go into self-custody, but that's people that, bought some Bitcoin and, want to have full 100% custody of it. And that's fine. But I just said, there's different people with different needs and different risk levels. Someone that buys $1 billion worth, I'm not going to tell them go and get your little cold storage and withdraw it there. They have different ways of dealing with it. But that's the beauty of Bitcoin. You're
Totally
free to choose. You don't have to follow no guidelines. This is the rules. This is how the regulator says you can do whatever you want. But that's the beauty of it. The choice is on you and the freedom is to be gained. Gary, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to jump on. I really enjoyed this, sir. I hope we can have you back in the future because our Bitcoin journeys are only getting started. It's going to be a wild ride going forward. Last thing, where can we send our listeners that want to follow you or perhaps get in touch and kind of follow everything you're doing?
Yeah,
What's the best
so
place?
at Gary Cardone on Twitter. I think it's the same thing on YouTube. I have a Rumble channel, but it's so difficult to work with. I think it's called The Gary Cardone. Instagram continues to deban me. I'm clearly not the right person. I've
They
had
don't like
7
Bitcoin
accounts.
content.
Now I'm kind of like, whatever, Mark, fuck off. I don't need Instagram. I tell you what I am doing, though, that I would advertise is I started doing something because of Bitcoin 15 weeks ago. I hold a Sunday morning church with Gary every Sunday at 10:30 Eastern. It is the hardest thing I do every week. It's been the most difficult thing to confront, but I feel compelled to go. I can't even believe that I'm now openly asking people to come to this room. This all came about through Bitcoin. Bitcoin's made me a better person. And I was complaining one day to myself, because I talk to myself a lot. I was like, churches really have let me down. They've let everybody down. Religions, education. I'm being Mr. Critical. I'm like, all I do is I'm critical. I'm just a pansy, a punk. Why don't I hold my own church? Now, I did that 15 weeks ago. 3,000 people showed up. No advertisement. The second week, there was 5,000 people. Now, I do a finance meeting with Mario Nafal and a whole bunch of guys. It's 30 people, man, in spaces that are professionals. There's 3,000 people every morning. There's 4,000 people showing up for church. It's an hour and a half long. And anyway, I would encourage, if you are missing community, I've put together this thing where people are all showing up, listening to a weirdo like me talk about freedom, the future, imagination. How do we create our future instead of being imprisoned by our parents' view of the world and religion's view of the world? They've all personally let me down. And the whole Bitcoin thing is really opened up a universe for me. Anyway, I'm really proud of what I'm doing on that.
I love it.
It's a beautiful thing. It doesn't cost $1 to join in. I have grown men. Hey man, I've got my 21-year-old son here. We're here for church. And I'm like, wow, that's so awesome. So it's a really cool thing. That's on Sundays.
Amazing. Congrats. I had no idea about that. And I guess if people follow you on X, they'll hear about it when these Sundays.
Hey, yeah. That's right. Yeah, we send out a notification, but it's a fun thing. If you haven't ever seen it, Come join me Sunday, and you'll be like, oh wow, this is I think you'll probably like it. So, but Gigi, I really appreciate your time. Great questions, man. Thank you, and congrats on 2025 for you.
Thank you so much. Likewise, Gary. I'll let you crack on with the day. All the best, and speak to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Ciao.
Thank you for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit too. Your support keeps us going, and we appreciate it. See you in the next one.